Edwards there live in Zurich. With me in the studio now is Adesope Olajide. He's a sports presenter from Vox Africa. And Ade, Gianni Infantino, now the new FIFA president, what does Africa stand to gain from him?
First of all, leadership. We've seen in football, especially FIFA, in the last couple of years that there's been allegations of corruption and administrative issues in African football. Now it looks like African football will be looking at the top to trickle down in terms of administration changes and, most importantly, finances. Funds from FIFA, the main body here in Switzerland, to go down to the smaller nations for organizations and countries to be able to participate in the big competitions. That's mainly what African nations will be looking for.
And looking at the bigger picture, just moving away from Africa, what does FIFA stand to gain with having someone like Infantino? We know he's General Secretary of UEFA. He was Michel Platini's right-hand man for many, many years, almost a decade there. What does football stand to gain with FIFA's reputation at such a low?
He's a fantastic, I would say his campaign has been run in a fantastic fashion. He's come out there to say he's somebody that likes to work. He knows his numbers very well. He's not a politician. He's about football. He wants to take football back to the center of the discussion. FIFA should be about one thing and football alone. And to see a technocrat like him become the president of FIFA, especially having, you know, breakaway votes in Africa and other parts of the world supporting him, shows that there are people that believe his leadership will take FIFA in the right direction, clean the image, and more importantly, bring football back to the center of the discussion.
Well, clean the image, as you put it there, that's much easier said than done. How much work does he have to do to convince people that FIFA is moving away from its past?
I think the first step we saw today in terms of coming into this competition and actually surprising us in the first voting rounds. The fact that he had said from day one he's a man, that he's his own man, not working, you know, not supporting or contesting because his leader kind of dropped out. But I think his work is going to be more about bringing unity in the FIFA ranks. A lot of people are not happy about what's gone on over the last couple of years, but more importantly, when they see someone like him putting his foot down and really working, we can see that the Americans as well believe in him. Hence why the votes that were for Prince Ali just immediately transferred to Infantino, as the Americans and co had endorsed Prince Ali 24 hours ago.
Okay, Adesope Olajide, sports presenter with Vox Africa, here with me in the studio. Now, Daniel Wahome is a sports journalist from Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. He joins me now from Nairobi, and Mimi Fawaz is a sports commentator who joins me from Lagos. Let's start with you first. Mimi, you've been gauging the reaction to Infantino's election across the continent. What are people saying?
Well, to be honest with you, I think this was the change that a lot of people were looking at. I was looking online before the votes on Twitter, and people didn't seem like they were going for Infantino. He made a quote saying, "I looked in the eyes of the African children, and Africa needs help." It didn't go down too well with some people on Twitter. But as we can see now, he's been elected as the president, and we will just have to see what the reforms are. I know they've passed the reforms. It's more important now, I think, more than who has been elected, more the reforms that will be important, and the transparency and rescuing the image of FIFA.
Okay, Daniel, in Nairobi, some people had said that this is the best time ever for the leadership of FIFA to move away from European countries and maybe give a chance to Africa and to Asia. We saw the only African candidate in the race, Tokyo Sekwale, stand down before the voting. Why do you think we have another European in charge of world football?
I think the first thing, Peter, we've got to say is that for Tokyo Sekwale, even in Africa, his presence was not felt when he was making his presentations, trying to pitch his whole story about changing Africa. Then when it comes to Asia, they had two candidates. So there was a split, especially even in the Middle East, and looking at the maps that were put forward as to how they were going to vote, there was going to be that split. But remember, these are the two continents that have got minimal representation when it comes to the highest competition. Think of the World Cup. And whoever offered them a greater opportunity is a man they were going to vote for, and it turned out to be Infantino. As for Sheikh Salman, he had talked about, you know, austerity, trying to keep the budgets tighter. Revenues are shrinking at FIFA. They're getting into their reserves. But who was offering more for development, more for institutional growth, and also a platform of which to put in even ethics boards at national or member association levels as in Africa, which is a big problem. Infantino offered that. He spent his time at the Championship of African Nations. He was freely speaking to the journalists at that tournament, and he already won the heart of the people, especially through the journalists who are in Rwanda.
Daniel, just to put you on the spot then, is Gianni Infantino the right man to lead FIFA forward?
Well, one of the things that's going to stand out, and I would like to quote the Transparency International report, especially on football. One was about the World Football League. It's not about plastic surgery for FIFA, it's reconstruction. We probably will not know FIFA as it should be. And so for him, I'm sure it's going to be a time which I may say it's stuff that makes your hair go gray so quickly, because he's got to change the ethics committee, bring in diversity into the entire FIFA structure. It's going to be a painful process, because the whole patronage that was there, the patronizing nature of FIFA, will have to go. And for Gianni Infantino, he's 45. I hope by the time he's 55, he won't look 65, because there's a lot of pressure coming in from human rights groups, diversity groups, and also, remember, from commercial partners who are saying our money, which belongs to shareholders, will not be treated wrong any longer.
Okay, indeed. Let's go back to Mimi Fawaz, who is in our Lagos bureau there. And Mimi, Gianni Infantino has promised to release a lot more money for the smaller nations within FIFA. Do you think that Africa now stands to gain even more than it did under the reign of Sepp Blatter?
I think so. I mean, as the commentator just before mentioned, he was in Rwanda for the CHAN competition, which showed you how important Africa is, and even getting those votes and building that relationship with Africa. I think as he's going to have to build as well from that legacy, the reason why Blatter enjoyed his reign as well was the Africa support. There needs to be more development in Africa, the smaller nations and the bigger African countries, infrastructure, accommodation, education, and bringing those two together. Just here a couple years ago in Lagos, I visited a football academy that had the students, the football players on the streets, who also board in that academy, nurturing them with education as well, football skills. We need to see more of that. That's what he needs to build on in Africa. And I think he will be investing more, as Piers Edwards mentioned, in Africa. He pledged over $1 million. I think we're going to be seeing a good era in Africa, but also there needs to be more transparency and accountability.
Okay, Mimi Fawaz in Lagos and Daniel Wahome in Nairobi. Thank you both.